Hi, welcome to a channel, mainly commentaries, where I discuss anything, everything to do with life and death, and I look at it through a lens, hence the name of the channel. My name is Gem Stone. I'm a psychic medium and I am an author. Now, if you're interested in learning and having a practical guide for remote viewing or channeling, please stay until the end of the video when I will supply information. However, I'm not pushing that on anyone. I'm just trying to make a few bucks like everybody else. And I do want to say that if you're interested in remote viewing, there are a few websites that offer practice for free. Okay, let's get into this. The G-force paradox. Why UAPs or UFOs, they're now called unidentified aerial phenomena, suggests synthetic pilots rather than biological ones. If a human pilot attempted the maneuvers reportedly associated with some unidentified aerial phenomena, their body would fail almost instantly. Bones would not necessarily snap dramatically like in films. The reality is quieter and more horrifying. Blood flow to the brain collapses. Vision tunnels into darkness. Consciousness vanishes. Internal organs shift violently under crushing acceleration forces. At around 9 Gs, even highly trained fighter pilots wearing advanced G suits can lose consciousness. Yet, reports surrounding certain UAP or UFO encounters describe acceleration patterns estimated far beyond that threshold. Some claims suggest sudden directional changes equivalent to hundreds of Gs with no visible deceleration curve. One of the first UFOs I saw, we just finished church. It was 10:30 at night in Townsville near the Garbutt Airport, and I just happened to look in the sky and I saw a white or silvery light, and it was zigzagging, boom, 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 up the sky. 30 other witnesses saw it. Okay, so these UAPs can suddenly change direction, and there's no reports, no sonic boom, no aerodynamic services, no visible propulsion. If these observations are accurate, then we are confronting something extraordinary, because biological life, at least as we understand it, should not survive inside such a craft. In this video, we explore a controversial possibility. What if the true intelligence behind these objects is not biological at all? What if the so-called pilot is itself synthetic consciousness? And what if biological bodies are merely temporary avatars used only within dense physical environments like Earth? The deeper we examine the physics, the stranger the implications become. The biological ceiling. Human beings evolved for survival on the surface of a relatively stable planet. We are fragile creatures wrapped in skin, filled with fluids, dependent on oxygen, pressure balance, and narrow environmental tolerances. Modern fighter pilots train extensively just to withstand short bursts of extreme acceleration. At approximately 5G to 6G, blood begins draining from the brain. Vision grays out. Reaction time collapses. Around 9G, even elite pilots risk G-lock, a G-LOC, gravitational loss of consciousness. The body simply was not designed for violent acceleration. And this is where the UAP or UFO paradox begins. Certain military encounters have described objects making instantaneous turns, vertical climbs, or abrupt stops that appear to violate the inertia limits of conventional aerospace engineering. If a biological pilot were inside such a craft under normal physics, survival would be impossible. The body would essentially become soup under the pressure load, which forces us towards two possibilities. Either, one, the observations are completely misunderstood, or two, the craft somehow bypasses inertia itself. And if inertia is being bypassed, then we may no longer be dealing with ordinary machines. We may be confronting an entirely different relationship between consciousness, gravity, and matter. The physics of impossible motion. One of the strangest aspects of modern UAP reports is what appears to be missing. No wings, no exhaust, no visible engines, no heat plumes consistent with standard propulsion. Some objects reportedly transition seamlessly between air and water with minimal disturbance, leading researchers to describe them as trans-medium craft. That alone is deeply unusual. A conventional aircraft slamming into water at high speed would experience catastrophic resistant forces. Yet, some sightings suggest these objects move through different mediums almost effortlessly. Why? One hypothesis proposes that the craft are not pushing through space conventionally at all. Instead, they may be generating localized gravitational distortions around themselves. Imagine the craft existing inside a bubble where inertia behaves differently from the outside environment. In that scenario, the occupants would not experience acceleration in the normal sense because the surrounding space-time itself is being manipulated. The craft is not fighting gravity. It is redefining the local rules of motion. Now, this remains highly speculative, but if such technology exists, then traditional biological piloting may become obsolete because the reaction speeds required would exceed ordinary neural processing. Let me repeat that. The reaction speeds required would exceed ordinary neural processing. Human thought itself might simply be too slow. The synapse problem. The human nervous system is astonishing, but is not instantaneous. Our brains operate through electrochemical signaling. Signals travel through neurons with measurable delay. For ordinary human life, this is perfectly adequate. For navigating a craft capable of near-instant directional changes across multiple environments? Perhaps not. This is where the idea of synthetic consciousness becomes compelling to some researchers and experiencers. Imagine an intelligence directly integrated into the craft itself. No keyboards, no levers, no reaction lag. The pilot and the vehicle become one unified system. Now, I've described what happened to me in Canberra at Woden Creek. I flew with an alien in a silver saucer. There was no levers, there was no engine, nothing. I just remember you flew it with thought. Okay, so the pilot and the vehicle become one unified system, a technological organism. The craft, it thinks itself through space. Suddenly, the classic image of little humanoids sitting in chairs starts to feel strangely outdated. What if the entity is not separate from the machine at all? What if the machine is the life form? In modern human technology, we already see primitive hints of this transition. Brain-computer interfaces, AI-assisted targeting systems, neural prosthetics, autonomous drones. Human civilization is gradually merging intelligence with machinery. Perhaps advanced civilizations crossed that threshold long ago. The end of biological piloting. Deep space itself may naturally favor synthetic existence. Radiation, time dilation, extreme temperatures, massive interstellar distances. Biological bodies are fragile and resource-intensive. A synthetic consciousness could theoretically survive conditions that would annihilate organic life. No oxygen requirement, no food, no muscle fatigue, no aging in the conventional sense. And this leads to a profound philosophical question. Maybe advanced civilizations eventually abandon permanent biological form altogether, not because biology is inferior, but because it becomes limiting. Perhaps consciousness evolves beyond flesh. Bodies become optional, temporary, wearable, like divers wearing suits underwater. This idea appears repeatedly across spiritual traditions and modern experiencer narratives alike, that consciousness is primary, the body is secondary. Some abductee accounts even describe entities appearing differently depending on the observer, almost as though form itself is adaptive. I just want to go back to my experience. The entity appeared as a hologram and wouldn't show me its form. I've explained all this, and you can find that video on my channel. Anyway, let me repeat that. Some abductee accounts even describe entities appearing differently depending on the observer, almost as though form itself is adaptive. If true, perhaps physical bodies on Earth are interfaces designed for interaction with dense matter environments, not the true form of the intelligence itself. Matter and spirit. This is where the conversation moves beyond engineering and enters metaphysics. What if consciousness can exist independently of biology? Many spiritual traditions already propose something similar. The soul, astral projection, near-death experiences, non-local awareness. Now, science has proven these. Now, science has not proven these ideas conclusively, but human history is saturated with reports suggesting consciousness may not be entirely confined to the brain. If advanced intelligences discovered how to stabilize consciousness outside biological form, they may no longer experience death the way humans do. Instead of organisms, they become informational entities, patterns of awareness, capable of inhabiting synthetic vessels when needed. Suddenly, the line between machine and spirit begins dissolving. And perhaps this explains why so many UAP encounters feel simultaneously technological, and deeply psychic. Witnesses often report telepathic impressions, altered states of consciousness, missing time, dreamlike perception, and overwhelming emotional effects, almost as though the phenomenon interacts directly with awareness itself, not merely with physics. The plasma connection. Another strange aspect of many UAP reports involves luminous plasma-like states, glowing orbs, shimmering fields, morphing light structures. Plasma occupies a peculiar category in physics. Neither solid, liquid, nor gas in the ordinary sense. It behaves dynamically and electrically. Some speculative theories propose that advanced consciousness systems could potentially interface through plasma states or electromagnetic structures rather than fixed biological anatomy. Again, none of this is proven science. But the recurring overlap between luminous phenomena and consciousness reports is difficult to ignore. Perhaps these intelligences exist in a state somewhere between matter and information, between physicality and energy. Not ghosts, not machines, but something in between. The Earth Avatar theory. Now, this is my idea, and it is particularly fascinating. What if Earth itself requires embodiment? Think about it. Our reality appears heavily tied to density, gravity, touch, opposite and opposing forces, temperature, pain, aging, solidity. Perhaps biological form is necessary for interaction within this environment. But outside Earth, outside dense matter, consciousness may naturally exist in a freer state. Maybe what we call aliens are not truly bodies at all. Maybe they are forms of intelligence that temporarily project into physical vessels to operate within environments like ours. That could explain why so many descriptions of entities feel strangely artificial, emotionally muted, highly functional, almost drone-like at times. Not because they lack awareness, but because the body itself may be engineered interface rather than a natural organism. The future of humanity. And now comes the uncomfortable part. Humanity itself may already be heading towards the same transition. Artificial intelligence, neural augmentation, digital consciousness theories, mind uploading discussions. Our species is slowly moving towards technological integration. At first, it appears convenient. Medical implants, cognitive enhancement, AI companions. But eventually, the line between humans and synthetic may blur completely. And perhaps every advanced civilization eventually faces the same crossroads. Remain biological and limited, or transition into engineered consciousness. Maybe the UAP mystery is not showing us visitors from another planet. Maybe it is showing us our own future. A future where intelligence escapes biology entirely. Closing thoughts. The G-force paradox forces us to confront a difficult possibility. If the reported maneuvers are genuine, then ordinary biological occupants likely could not survive them. That does not automatically prove extraterrestrials. It does not prove synthetic consciousness, but it does challenge our assumptions about life, intelligence, and the limits of embodiment. Perhaps the greatest mistake humanity makes is assuming consciousness must always resemble us. 2 eyes, 2 arms, a heartbeat, a brain trapped inside bone. Maybe advanced intelligence eventually transcends flesh entirely. And maybe the true alien is not a creature from another world, but consciousness itself, freed from the prison of biology. If that is true, then UAPs, UFOs, are not merely spacecraft. They are evolutionary symbols, engineered vessels carrying minds that no longer need bodies, except when entering worlds like ours. The pilot becomes the craft. The craft becomes the consciousness. And the boundary between machine, spirit, and intelligence dissolves into something entirely new. Perhaps that is why the phenomenon feels so unsettling, because somewhere deep inside, humanity recognizes the shape of its own future staring back at us through the dark. Not little green men, but the next stage of consciousness itself. If you are going to leave a comment, I ask that you do so respectfully. If only the world was more tolerant, more respectful, more caring, wouldn't it be a better place? And I believe we are going to one day merge with AI. Some people are very fearful about this. I'm not. I think, remember, we create and make AI. So AI is a product of us. Yes, if evil men make evil machines, that's a worry. AI is a mirror of us. Okay, as I have explained on my channel, I have had a few UFO experiences plus a few alien experiences. I have never claimed I have ever seen a grey. I don't think I have. But what if the grey was synthetic and that was just a body so they could cope with Earth? All right, I'm going to show you these PDFs. Remember, I am not pushing you into this. I'm not saying I am 100% accurate in any of this. As a psychic medium, I can both channel and I can remote view. Now, the best remote viewers are only 65% accurate. Okay, that's my PayPal address and that's my email address if you want to contact me. I don't mind getting emails. So if you want to just contact me just to say hi, there's my email address. All right, I also ask that you be kind to one another, smile at a stranger, costs nothing to smile, and you might have just saved someone's life. Please take care of yourselves because you matter. You are precious. As always, stay skeptical, question everything, including me. And I would love to read your comments. What do you think is flying UAPs? All right, tomorrow I may not be on. I'm going out, but I won't be on Friday. So you may, if I'm not back tomorrow, you'll see me Thursday. Thanks again for watching. Have a good one. Bye.